Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Dane here, and this is Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. We're here today to introduce you to this really cool hands-on body process called the bars. We like to say it empties all your old files and presses the delete button. It's like calling up all the old stuff in your recycle bin and pressing delete.
Don't you want to keep all that stuff on your computer? Isn't that how you make it solidify and stop?
Yeah, exactly. That's like exactly what happens. It's like your hard drive eventually stops spinning. And how much does that feel like exactly what's going on in your life right now? So what this does is actually allows you the capacity to change any area of your life that you'd like to change. One of the reasons we wanted to make this DVD is not only to give you from the founder, the guy that developed it, the exact placement of these bars, the points on the head, so that you know when you're doing it, but also to invite you to a different possibility for your life, because that's why we do this. You know, what if life were more fun? What if it were easier? What if you were actually joyful occasionally, you know?
No, you can't have joy.
You're not allowed?
Not allowed. I heard that it's not allowed on planet Earth.
You know why? Because once you're 7 years old, they tell you got to get serious and start living your life.
That's right. And so you end up living the rest of your life serious.
Really
it's not
serious.
The most fun, but
it's like, what if you could be like a kid again? You know, where every day it was like, oh my God, what did I get to do today?
Wait a minute, I heard that's when the first time you had your bars run.
Yeah, actually, literally 10 years ago, I literally wanted to kill myself. And I not only wanted to, I was actually planning the date for it. Didn't want to traumatize anybody by my passing. And I saw an ad for Access Consciousness. It said, Access, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory, and it had a girl's phone number. So I called, and I had done every technique under the sun. And I asked her what she did, and she said, oh my God, we do all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, great, I've done all kinds of stuff. What does it do? She said, well, probably a good place to start would be these things on the head called the bars. There's these 32 points, and when you hold them, she said at the end of this hour session, you'll feel like, at the worst, you'll feel like you had a good massage. At the best, your whole life will change. And in the back of my head, I'm going, my whole life better change or I'm killing myself.
Did it change?
Oh my God, I'm sitting here with you because of it. You know it's changed.
Well, for me, it was a similar sort of thing. It's like, you know what, I needed to have my life change. It's like I had tried everything under the sun to get happy, to get to a place where I had a sense of peace in my life. And I started running the bars. And I had a man recently who's in his 60s, and he came to me and he said, you know what, you've got to get people to run the bars every day. If they would run a set of bars every day, they'd be happy for the rest of their lives. And this man had spent 16 years living in caves and going to India to, do meditation. And he said the problem was that every time I opened my eyes and came out in the light, I was miserable again. He said, now I just run a set of bars every day and I'm happy all the time. So what you're going to get is what you're going to get. But we'll demonstrate how this is done shortly here. And hopefully you get the kind of results Dane did where you get to be happy. And hopefully you get the idea that the result I got. And the worst case scenario, you'll feel like you had a great massage.
Yeah, that's the worst case scenario. So here's the other thing is, there's no one on the planet that can't do this. Now for me, it was 9 months before I ever felt energy when I was doing the bars. Now I did it, and I did my best to learn the points. And if you'll be willing to give yourself about 10 sessions before you start giving you a hard time, would you be willing to do that? Okay, 10 sessions before you judge you. Do we have a deal on that? I'm just going to assume you said yes because I can't hear you. Okay, good. So we'll assume we have a deal. 10 sessions, if you'll do that without giving yourself a hard time, by that point you will have learned where the points are. A lot of us like to judge ourselves when we don't feel like we can do something right. The cool thing about these bars is you can't do them wrong. So maybe this could be one of the places that starts opening up in your life where you just try it for the fun of it because you can't hurt anybody and you can't do it wrong. So
I want you to know that the worst person that ever came to Access was me. I couldn't tell the difference between body heat and energy. And it's like, what's going on here? The good news is I had to ask the people, okay, so are you feeling anything? What are you feeling? And I got feedback. Otherwise, I would have had no clue I was doing anything. So know that you can't get any worse than me. I'm the worst that ever came to Access. And so I'm sure you can do it. Just as Dane says, give yourself some time. So this is how you begin the bars. So yay, I'm going to get my bars run. Hey, it's a happy Dane. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when somebody's going to get their bars run is you want them to remove their watches, okay? Especially primarily if it's battery operated, because the reality is this, okay? You're going to be running so much energy and there's so much electrical discharge that sometimes what happens is people's watches die. Now I've had several people who they put a new battery in it and after doing their bars, it didn't run again, ever. And I've had a couple of people who,
Ever.
after having their bars run, their watch ran backwards forever. So I'd rather that not occur for you, especially if you have an expensive watch. So the first thing you want to do is cradle the person's head in your hand and then put 3 fingers on their third eye. And you're going to pull the energy up through their body, through your fingers, through your hands, and up and out the top of your head. After you run this for a while, it begins to be smooth, because a whole lot of times you'll find people, their bodies will jerk, things will happen as you start to run the energy, because their energy has been blocked for years. So in the beginning especially, you might get a lot of reaction. So you want to run that until you feel the energy running smoothly, and then you want to go down to their feet. Put your finger, your middle finger, in the ball of their feet, right behind the big section of their foot. Here's the big section, right in this area here. And you're going to pull energy down through their head, through their body, and into your hands and up and out the top of your head. Okay, now, is it hard to do? No, you just ask it to run. It will. Okay, the third thing you're going to do is you're going to take the person's hand, in the palm of the hand here. You're going to put your third finger in there. You're going to put their third finger into the palm of your hand. And you can just ask them. And you're going to pull the energy through the top of their head, into their arms, into your hands, and then up and out the top of your head. And when you feel it running freely and easily, and if you don't feel it, just ask the person, how's this feeling to you? And they'll tell you. You'll know whether you're doing okay or not. Okay, an alternative to that, which is more comfortable for many people, is to have the person raise, it's like if you're already sitting down in particular, is to have the person raise their hands, and then you pull the energy from their head into their arms, into their hands, into your hands, and out the top of your head. And you can do it in this direction, or you can do it the other way I showed you. Okay, there's no right or wrong here, there's just choice. Okay, then you begin with the implant band. The implant band is here behind the head. And everybody's head is just a little bit different, but it feels like, like there's a bowling ball here, because what you're doing is you're putting your fingers here in this little trough, and there's a bone right behind the ear, and right behind that is a little trough in everybody's head. And that's called the implant band. Now you can run this for as long as you need to. And it starts out, doesn't feel like much of anything. Then pretty much it starts to get hot. And then after a little while, it may even get to the point where you feel like your fingers are going numb. They're not actually numb, there's just so much energy running through them that you start losing the sense of feeling. It's interesting because if you take your hand off, it's like all of a sudden it's gone. You put your hand back on, all of a sudden it's all there. So it's once again, no right or wrong here, just choice. So feel that energy and allow it to run. So when you're doing this is not like the energy pulls, which are about opening up the flows of energy in the body. When you get to the implant band, what you're doing is touching this spot so that the thoughts, feelings, emotions that they have stored in any lifetime that allow these things to affect them just begins to dissipate. Now this is different because you're not putting energy in, you're not pulling energy out, you're just allowing a discharge. It's like hitting delete file on your computer bank. And that's what we're doing when we run the bars, deleting the files. And you'll get as much clarity on a bar session as maybe 5,000 to 10,000 years of thoughts, feelings, and emotions about a particular issue. Alright, so in order to find the next set of bars, you're going to go to money, control, and creativity. Now if you look on your chart, it shows the ear here, okay? It's like this part of the ear, and you go straight up 3 fingers, okay? And that's money. Control is right next to it, and creativity. Alright, and notice that they happen to be shaped just like your fingers are. Isn't that weird? But that's the way you run them. 3 fingers up, and then 3 fingers back. Money,
it's like our heads were made for it.
Money, control, and creativity. One of the things that's great about this stuff, if you have any consideration about whether you're doing it right, what you can do is start here at the top of the ears and say, money, control, creativity, money, control, creativity, money, control, creativity. And when you get to the right spot, it'll already be slightly hot because it knows what you're looking for. So it's like it will slide into position. You just got to be willing to ask.
So if you say it 3 times,
you say it 3 times, you turn the bar on, and it starts to come up. Now, one of the things you got to know is after you run somebody's bars, oftentimes they'll hear somebody talking in the street, and that too can turn their bars on. So when people call you and they say, I got a headache after that stuff you ran, ask them if that's a headache or if their bars are running, because the bars will run automatically by themselves. This is a push-button system. Now, if it is that they say, well, it won't turn off, then have them reach up, find the place where it's hurting, and find a spot that's hot and hurting, and push really hard, and it will stop. So the next section starts from creativity, creating life forms, creating connections, and creating life forms, which are at about a 45-degree angle down the head. And if you have any question about it, just once again, call up creating life forms, creating connections. Do that again. Creativity, creating connections, creating life forms. And those 3 will start to run of their own volition as well. So you'll feel them. If you have any questions, just move your hands around a little bit until it feels right. And it feels like there's a little indentation there that was designed for your fingers to go in. And it was. What? You think your head was designed for this stuff? Yeah, definitely was. There's all kinds of life forms in the world. Like a song is a life form. So is a book. So is a poem. So is an artwork. They're all life forms of their own. And it's like once you realize that, then what this can do is stimulate your creative edge. So the next one, is called the aging toaster. And this is all the considerations you have about getting old. And it's like what you want to do is figure it's from the inside edge of the eyes here, inside of the edge, straight up, and into the center, and over the center of the ear here. So that it's right in this location. Okay, and it's like if you have any questions, you consider it a yellow color, and consider that your hands are going to feel like they're 3 inches down inside the person's brain. And oftentimes they'll say, are you pushing too hard? And just know that this is what they do. One of the things that you want to know is that sometimes if you're not getting a lot of juice or a lot of heat or a lot of energy out of a person's bars, you may need to run their bars by dimensions. And what you do is you just call up 6th dimension, 7th dimension, 8th dimension, 9th dimension, 10th dimension, 11th dimension, 12th dimension, 13th dimension, and then go down to 1. 1st dimension, 2nd dimension, 3rd dimension, 4th dimension, and 5th dimension. And each time you do that, what happens is that turns on all the places, all the dimensions in which this person has had a point of view. And one of the interesting things is a whole lot of people who come to Access find that over a number of years, they age less than their friends do. It's actually gotten a whole lot of people interested in Access because their friends are not aging, they are. So, will it help? Yeah. Well, if you take away all the considerations about what it means to age, we actually age. How many of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions do we use against us and against our bodies to make it get old? If you didn't think you were old, would you be old? Just an interesting point of view. Okay, so the one thing you want to make sure is the person doesn't touch their hands together, because if they do that, they short everything out. And it's what happens. What's interesting is a lot of times it'll feel like everything's really hot and then all of a sudden it goes really cold. First thing you want to look at is their hands. If they're touching their hands together or if they're holding their hands together, that will short circuit the bars so that they don't work. It's like, and if they're too close together down on their, hips or something, they're too close together, that will also short them out. So just be aware of that. Try to keep them like Dane's hands are in different positions, not next to each other. The next set would be form and structure, hopes and dreams, and then awareness and control. Now we all know that control is that one that's in the center here, right? Right up from the ear here. And awareness is right next to it. So you put those 2 fingers close together, okay? And bend your ring finger, and then you can put hopes and dreams and form and structure together with those. Now, if you really got big hands like I do, you can also run the bridging bar. But that's not necessary, and do what works for your hands and do what works for you. Now, you can run every one of these separately if you wish. So you could add the bridging bar if your hands are big enough. Most people don't have as big as hands as I do, and some people have really big heads. So if you have small hands and you have a client with big head, then you probably want to run these separately. So I would run, if that were the case, I'd run, form and structure and hopes and dreams, and then awareness and control separately, but with the bridging bar. So those are some of the choices you have. And please know that it's not that you have to do it this way. This format is set up to give the easiest way to do it. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy for you. Recognize that your hands may be different, the head of the person you're working on may be different. So adjust according to what works for you. The next set we're going to do are sadness and joy, healing, which is right in the middle of the temple. Now, if you feel the temple here, you'll feel a little indentation at the front of the temple. And back here, you'll feel another one. And healing is in the middle of those. So this is form and structure, which is a little indentation right here by the temple. And at the back of the temple, there's another little indentation. So that's form and structure, hopes and dreams. And in the middle is the healing bar. And it's all the considerations you have about healing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do healing, sadness and joy, and body and sexuality. Body and sexuality are right over the middle of the eye and all the way in the back here. They're a pink and a blue combination. Those are the three you're going to run together at this point. Now, one of the interesting things is I had a guy who was doing this in one of my classes, and the man who was on the table, his feet suddenly popped up in the air about 3 feet and slammed back down on the table. The next day he came in and he said, "Wow, this is amazing. My pelvis, which has been tipped forward for my entire life, just tipped back to where it belongs, and I'm an inch taller and I'm straighter now." So, can things happen? Yeah. Do you know what's going to happen? No. Because the person who has the points of view, the considerations you're erasing, determine how well the session is going to be and go. The next set of bars you're looking for are called kindness, gratitude, peace, and calm. So what you're going to do is you're going to go from the middle of the ear, and you're going to go straight back 3 fingers like this. That's the first one. The second one is next to it, and the third one is right underneath it. So once again, middle of the ear, 3 fingers back, replace the third finger with your first finger, put your third finger next to that one, and put your middle finger underneath it. And that creates the triangle of peace and calm, kindness and gratitude. So if your hands, when you divide your fingers like this, are the perfect indicator for the angle for time and space and communication. So if you put your hand here in front of the person's ears, and you slid your fingers out like this, you would have the angle away from the head, and right in this location, right about here, and you can, there it is, you can feel the sort of indentation that each person has, and that's for time and space and communication. And those I usually run separately just by themselves. Okay, so you've done time and space and communication. Now if you do those towards the end, then you can get to the restructuring of bodies, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to come from this front place of time and space, back here with your little finger back to the power band, which is the area at the back where the person rests their head on your hand, okay? And then put all the other fingers in a straight line. And then restructuring is the outside edge of the eyes, okay? You're going to go from the outside edge of the eyes here and come up and down here in this area, straight in line with the outside edge of the eyes. So it's time and space, power band, reactivation, and recreation. And what this does is everything that this person has let go of during this session, okay, restructuring gives their body a new place to be. And it's like, I personally have had the experience of getting off the table when the craziest woman I ever worked on came to my class. Nobody would work with her. I let her work on me. And at the end of the class, instead of having pigeon toes, I had duck feet. Literally, my feet turned out where they had turned in before I got on the table. Not supposed to be a possibility, but definitely occurred. So restructuring, reactivation, and recreation are the things that keep things from coming back that you've erased during the session. So if you're a massage therapist or a chiropractor, or you do any kind of healing work, definitely might consider adding this to your repertoire, just because that alone will get results that will stay. I know I used to go to the chiropractor, and they'd put my neck in, and I'd walk out the door and turn my head and it would go out again. And it's like, after learning this, I would go to the chiropractor, and then I'd ask it to run myself. I'd ask restructuring, reactivation, and recreation to run while I laid on the table for a few minutes before I got off. And you can ask your bars to run, so they will. Be smart. Don't ask all of them to run at the same time, because if you do, they will, and it'll hurt. So don't ask more than 3 of them to run at once, okay? So you do this, restructuring, reactivation, recreation, and it keeps things from returning to where they used to be. And after I did this, I found that my neck adjustments stayed in for the first time in my life. The circle of manifestation is back here. And the best way I can describe it, it's like, you know how they put a yarmulke on their head? And, when they wear a yarmulke, and that's, it's this little beanie back here. And what you want to do is you want to hold that like this. The circle of manifestation basically runs in a clockwise direction. I've had one person in all the years I've done this, 20 some odd years at this point, that ran in the opposite direction. But almost everybody runs to the right. So what this is manifestation does not mean that something shows up. If you say, I would like to manifest this, what you're saying is, I would like how this shows up, and that doesn't make sense. Manifestation means how something shows up, not that it shows up. So this is about how things show up in your life. So whatever's showing up in your life that's not what you would like, this will help unlock that, so things will show up the way you'd really like them to be. The basic completion here is the tunnels of time and space, which were just above. Tunnels of time and space are above sadness and joy, right in these locations. And basically it's about opening up so that you can be connected to all time and all space. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to put your fingers on the bars, and then you're going to slowly lift them and pull the energy out. Pull energy out of them. And the easiest way to tell when they're actually working is when yours start to open up, and it'll feel almost like you have a little cool breeze on your forehead. Okay? Once those are running well, the final bar you're going to run is called the crown of Mistar, and that's literally like the crown of your head, and that's what people call the crown chakra. And what you're going to do is you're going to make your hands appear like a circle, and you're going to pull energy out the top of their head. And in so doing, this will start to feel like your crown is opening up as well. So it's like when it's moving, you can feel it. And for some people, you have to get further back than others. So you have to play with it until you find the right range for the person you're working on. For Dane, his is about 1.5 to 2 feet away from his body. And then his crown begins to open. And you want to run that until you feel yours opening equal to theirs. And you'll know when it happens. Of that, I can guarantee you. Most of the bars require, 10 minutes, some of them a little more, some of them a little less, depending on what the person's issue is when they walk in the door. The tunnels of time and space and the crown of Mistar usually take just a few seconds to run, maybe a minute, 2 at the most. So they're not long-term things where you have to stay there for a long period of time. That completes the session, and the person should feel great, and their whole life can change. The bad news is, they're going to change for the rest of their lives.
So the bars will keep running?
the bars will keep running, and it's like they'll unwind and become more conscious. The purpose of Access is to get you to the point where you give up your polarity, your anti-consciousness, your unconsciousness in favor of a more conscious life. The only reason something doesn't work in your life is because you're addicted to the unconsciousness and the anti-consciousness that everybody else lives with. You got a different possibility? It's your choice. It's your life. Choose. Hi, I'm Gary Douglas, founder of Access. You've met my friend Dane here.
The crash test dummy for bars.
Yes. And we had a good time here. Hope you learned something. Hope this helps you in being able to develop your desire to get free in your life.
Thanks for coming to play with us, and enjoy doing the bars. It's a great pleasure to share it with you.
And just know, the choice always creates awareness. Awareness does not create choice.
So all you got to do, if you want something different, just choose. Have a great life. Hopefully we'll see you in person someday.
Thanks.